Okay, so welcome to Judges Training again, everyone. And at this time, we will get into it. Our TQD is not here yet, so I'll just introduce our judge, our chief judge, which is Naomi Carrington Hockman. Let's hear it for her, everyone.
The chat, Anne Marie. Look at your chat.
All right, my chat. Let me find my chat. Oh, there we go. Okay, Judge DTM Naomi Carrington Hockman. Let's hear it for the two-time DTM Judge. Woohoo! Thanks for that correction, Naomi. Appreciate it.
Anyway, let me read you my introduction. Two-time DTM Naomi Carrington Hockman has been a Toastmaster for 10 years. During that time, I have served in every leadership position, which was all 7 club officer positions multiple times. Area director, division director, club growth director, program quality director, division director, and immediate past director. That was my most recent job last year. I absolutely agree with the quote, "You are not complete until you compete." I'm most proud of my 3rd place trophy when I competed in an area contest way back before I started my district leadership track, which started in District 18. So I've actually participated in the contest activities. But I'm most proud of when I was division director in District 95 in Germany, when I put together a joint district conference where I was the district contest chair, and I coordinated 22 contests in 5 languages in Athens, Greece. And that contest was attended by the international president at the time. So I've been a functionary for contests for over 60 different contests at all levels, all the way up to the World Championship of Public Speaking. So I'm more than qualified to serve as your contest chief judge, as your district chief judge. So that was the introduction that was supposed to have been given today, because I'm fairly new back to District 18. So I wanted to introduce myself to you guys because it's been a while since I've actually served District 18. But today I wanted to talk to you about being a judge. My role today is not so much to teach you how to be a district judge for a contest. My role is to teach you how to fish. So we're all going fishing today, because there's one thing about Toastmasters. Every year, they change that rule book. So if there's anything you need to know about contests, Toastmasters International, is that they're going to change the rule book. That rule book is your Bible. So here in District 18, your go-to, your one-stop shop is the District 18 website. So is everyone familiar with the District 18 website? Is there anyone not familiar with the District 18 website? So it would behoove you to locate the District 18 website and go to the tab that has the contest training materials. And I can go there just yet. We will go there shortly. Because the first thing we're going to talk about is being a voting judge. If you are a voting judge, there are barriers to objectivity. And those barriers to objectivity affect how you pick the winners of the contest. Remember, as a judge, you are picking a winner. You are not doing an evaluation. That's for what goes on in your club meetings. Evaluations are for club meetings. Contests, you are judging. You're picking a winner. Don't worry about losers. We're not going to talk about that. Nobody's a loser. Everyone's a winner. The fact that you're competing, you're already a winner. So some of those barriers to objectivity, I'm sorry, the PQDs here. So if you can post the agenda in the chat, I would appreciate that too. I did it earlier, but now more people have shown up. So if you could post the agenda in the chat, I'd appreciate that. Because the agenda does have the references and the tabs you can click on. So it is a point of reference for you. Thank you. So the barriers to objectivity. The first barrier we're going to talk about is first or last to speak is best. When you're the speaking order, we are humans. So what ends up happening is who ends up speaking first or who ends up speaking last tends to get stuck in our heads. We have to fight our natural tendency to have that person who speaks last be stuck in our head. So when you're looking at your ballot, try to judge the speaker and then forget the speaker. Keep each person separate. And don't try to put them next to each other until the very, very end, when you have to break your own tie. The other barrier to objectivity is helping out the underdog. Maybe a person has a disability. Maybe the person, has something that, that person, you empathize for some reason for that person, and you place that underdog moniker on that person. So maybe you score them a little higher. Try to be fair. Try to be objective. Another barrier to objectivity is called the halo effect. This is where a speaker with a reputation, maybe a past leader, maybe you know this person from somewhere else, maybe you've heard this person speak and is a dynamic speaker, and you assign more points to that person. You hold that speaker in a high regard, and you give that person more points than perhaps they deserve. So you have to avoid the halo effect. The counter to the halo effect is the reverse halo effect. This is where your association with that person is unfavorable. And you just don't like that person for whatever reasons. Maybe they cut you off in the parking lot and they turn out to be a contestant. For whatever reason, you don't like that person and you gave them less points than they deserve. Try to be objective and judge the person, the contestant, for what he or she is doing on that stage or screen at that moment in time. Another barrier to objectivity is the second time around. Perhaps you've seen the speaker compete last year or last contest season, and you're like, oh, they were so close the last time. And you assign more points than maybe they deserve. Try to avoid giving them that extra boost and be objective. Another barrier to objectivity is giving somebody else a chance. Here in District 18, we have a second time around winner for the World Championship of Public Speaking, right? Aaron Beverly. But he came in, I believe, second place one year, and then the next year he came in first, or something like that. So what if somebody said, oh, no, he got on the world stage already, he doesn't need another chance? So try to be objective. You've got to judge for what they did on the stage at that moment in time. So whether it's you're giving them a second chance or you want to give somebody else a chance because they had a second chance, be objective. Another barrier to objectivity is not the norm. Some people give speeches that are seemingly unconventional. Maybe it's just not your cup of tea, the topic or their mannerisms or their delivery. I recall at an international speech contest that, not at an international speech, at a convention in Vancouver, an African-American from the US, the keynote speaker was extremely evangelical. He did not say the word of the Lord at all. However, you could have inserted the Lord's name, insert, but he was very evangelical. And a lot of the Europeans did not like his delivery whatsoever. And they made that known. Luckily, it was not a contest. But that is an example of them not liking his delivery. If that delivery was not the norm for them. But as a judge, you have to be objective. And you're required to judge based on the criteria on the ballot. And we'll get to that in a second. And you have to decide, was that delivery effective according to the criteria on the ballot? Another barrier to objectivity is called prejudice and personal preferences. Some people's tastes, beliefs, preferences, and prejudice are upfront. They're prevalent. And so they could be a bias. And for you, as a judge, you have to try to remember to be a judge and don't judge what the speaker is actually saying, but judge the delivery and how it's being delivered. You're not judging the person, you're judging the speech, you're judging how effective what they're saying, how it's landing. So after the speech contest, you're not going to be thinking about, oh, that person. Remember, in Toastmasters, we do protect the self-esteem of the speaker. And the final barrier to objectivity is the unknown judging form. The judging ballot is a guideline multitasking here and letting people into the room. As a judge, you'll need to be familiar with the judging form, the actual ballot. If this is not, you have to, before you actually sit down to judge, you have to understand what it's saying. Analyze exactly the criteria that's on the form. And you're listening to the speaker and matching up what the speaker is saying and how they're delivering it to what is on the form. What you can't do is make up your own set of rules and your own personal set of criteria. If the judging form says you're judging content, delivery, and language, you can add on there something that's, say, on like the Tall Tales ballot. So you have to go by the criteria that's set on the speech that you are judging. So to review the barriers to objectivity, they are first or last speaker is best. Let's help the underdog. The halo effect. The reverse halo effect. The second time around. Give someone else a chance. Not the norm. Prejudice and personal preferences. And the unknown judging form. So now, I want to hear from you guys. Please get off mute and hear what are your questions, concerns, or pain points. How do you feel about being objective. You think, after all, you are human. You think you can be objective.
I had a question. Can I ask that?
Absolutely, yes.
So one of your criteria was the non-conventional. And one thing as I'm listening to it, and I've been a judge many times, is isn't the selection of topic relevant? If they select something which may not be an appropriate topic, shouldn't that be part of the judging?
Nope. Nope. Not to. Sue, let me tell you, I've had some contests where I swear we were in the Twilight Zone. No, you cannot. You can pick any topic under the sun. You're not judging the topic, you're judging their delivery. Yeah. I mean, if it's the international speech contest, there's a line on the ballot that says, appropriateness, right? But if you think about it, it says language. Is the language appropriate? You know, it doesn't say, was the topic terrible? So yeah, you can't judge the topic.
It's just interesting because I know there have been some speeches before that are literally offensive to people, and I don't think that's appropriate to do in a speech contest. But
yeah, so offensive to whom? Like, yeah, offensive. Like, what's offensive to you may not be offensive to me. So
okay,
you're not judging the topic. You're judging their delivery.
okay. It seems counterintuitive to me if they pick something. I mean, the topic I'm talking about, it was not offensive to me as much as offensive to general listeners. It was degrading other people, almost making fun of other people, and I didn't think that was appropriate. That's the only one I recall where I really thought that the topic was not appropriate for a speech contest. Not appropriate anyway, but not for a speech contest.
I think that's why they give that little warning, before speech contests, that you may hear or see them do something that you don't agree with, or I don't remember the exact wording, but they're, or language that you don't agree with. Even at international conference, one of the guys, I heard people around me complaining he was too preachy, or he like wanted people to shake hands or hug or people next to you. And I was around people who that's not part of their culture. So they were offended, that they were being asked to do that. But we have to remember, like the other Naomi said, what's offensive to one is not always offensive to, the rest of us.
I mean, I've been in California where they've given a speech on abortion rights. Then another person did a speech on his trip to DC, to the RNC convention in National Harbor. Yeah, he was in California. He came to DC to National Harbor and told us all about his trip. Here, I'm in Maryland, so in DC, we had a contest where one person talked about, of course, we're in the nation's capital, so we had a Republican event, then we had a Trump rally, then slavery, immigration, you name it. We had one contest that had everything under the sun. I was like, Twilight Zone, what is going on today? So, yeah. And we had like calls left and right, like, stop the content. Nope. Nobody said anything inappropriate, but yes, did each topic grate on my nerves? Yes. And did I say, thank God I wasn't a judge? Yes. But you had to look at the criteria and go with speech development, effectiveness, speech value, and judge those things on the ballot. But were the topics terrible? Yes, they were. Yeah. And truth be told, will they ever make it to the World Championship in public speaking? No, absolutely not. Because your message has to be universal. And so, absolutely a waste of effort. But anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. So at this time, if anybody has any other questions about barriers to objectivity, what I want to get into is the actual ballots. And so is everyone familiar with the actual ballots? And we're going to start with the item for the International Speech Contest, Judges Guide and Ballot. Each contest has its judging criteria. And so if you go on the district website, you'll find the entire the kit for each contest, where every single form to execute a contest is on the district website. Really, it's just linked to toastmasters.org, which is good because it gives you the latest and greatest forms. 2023 forms, which is good because TI is always updating their forms. So if everybody can go to and pull down, remember, we're fishing today. For those of you who are now coming in, we're fishing. I'm teaching you how to fish. I'm not just giving you the answers to the test. So item 1181 is the ballot for the International Speech Contest, Judges Guide and Ballot. Now the easy button is to just type the item number in the search bar on toastmasters.org, right? That is also an easy button. Or you could put International Speech Contest Ballot. It's also an easy thing to do. So if you all have the ballot.
Right. And I think most of the time that's how it is, but we're trying to
You're on mute.
change
Anne-Marie, mute yourself if you're talking off screen.
Anne-Marie, are you talking to us? Oh no, she wasn't. Okay. So the judges' criteria. So the first part, the front part of the ballot is a recommendation on how to score the contestant. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 topics or criteria that you're going to be judging the contestant on. but they're broken up into 3 categories. Content, which is worth 50 points, delivery, which is worth 30 points, and language, which is worth 20 points. And it gives you recommendations on, how many points to give each category, whether they were excellent, very good, good, or fair. And because we're in a virtual world and most of our contests are going to be virtual, the next segment of this training is going to be on use of our electronic ballot scoring and how you're going to score the ballots and deliver it electronically. But what I want to talk about now is the back part of the ballot, because this is where, before each contest, you really need to understand what Toastmasters International is asking you to consider when you're judging the contestant. It is important that you understand each component and each criteria. Remember, the World Championship of Public Speaking, by the time we pick that winner, if we started at the club level, if every single judge is applying the same criteria, then we can absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, say that this has been a fair competition all the way up to the World Championship of Public Speaking. So this is why this training and these ballots and the back page of the ballot is so important, so that we have a universally fair contest. So we're going to start with the content. We're looking at speech development, effectiveness, and speech value. In speech development, absolutely fairly simple. This is what we've been doing from day one, first meeting. You got an open-end body conclusion. Very simple. This is an organized way to have a content, to have a speech. If they're not doing that, if it's disorganized, you score that accordingly. Effectiveness. This is where, when you're scratching your head saying, what is this person talking about? If you're confused, the audience can confuse. I do gotta say, in the virtual world, when you as a judge cannot see the audience, it is a little bit harder. But when we're back in the world and we can, look around and actually see the audience, or like in a humor speech contest, you can hear the laughter. That, especially hearing the laughter, that's always like a really good thing. It's a good measure of effectiveness. It's really good. Because especially it says, was the audience interest held by the speaker? So in the virtual world, you have to be that audience member. Was your interest held? I would highly recommend, in the in-person contests, to not just use yourself as the measure, use the audience. Look around, position yourself in a manner that you can actually use the rest of the audience. Are they leaning forward? Are they interested? Are they engaged? Or are they playing on their phone? Speech value talks about justifying the art of speaking. The speaker has a responsibility to say something meaningful and original to the audience. The listener should feel the speaker has made a contribution to their thinking. The ideas should be important ones, although this does not preclude a humorous presentation of them. Sue, you talked about some of the topics. Sometimes those off the wall topics, this is where speech value, this is where some of those you can judge.
That was actually what I was thinking of, speech
This
value.
is where you could you know, you be the judge on some of those, you know, not so kosher topics. That's where you can make your impact. So delivery, 30%. We're looking at physical. Now, delivery in the virtual world. Are they making use of their virtual space? Are they coming forward? Are they using back? Are they using the left? Are they using the right? Or are they doing it so terrible that you cannot see their hand and arm movements and they're pixelated and, you know, or did anybody just see Bobby Fischer just move out of view? So remember, in the virtual world, we have other things we got to be judging. If they're using a virtual screen, how are they using the virtual screen? There's a whole list of other virtual speech contest rules. So if they're using a virtual screen, it's at their own peril. And then we get to judge them on how they use the virtual background. That's why they're recommending don't use a virtual background. If they're lighting, the one thing we cannot judge, their audio. If the audio goes out, remember, they get 30 seconds of grace. Then the chief judge has to decide, all right, stop, give them time to fix and repair, and then we come back and let them pick up from where they came back. And then that becomes a timer's nightmare because then we have to make sure that we start the time back from where they pick up from where they left off. But they get an extra 30 minutes of grace to come back and fix their audio problems. But we do get to stop and let them fix their audio problems. But that's not a judge's issue. You can't judge the fact that they had technical difficulties. So you got to put that out of your mind. Because it happens. Voice. Speaking of voice, remember, we're looking for vocal variety, the usual stuff that you do in your club meetings, but with the added issue of you cannot judge because they don't have a professional mic system in the virtual world. You can't give them less points because they don't have, you know, a full sound system, studio quality audio system. And manner is the indirect revelation of the speaker's real self as the speech was delivered. I think that this is the speaker should speak with enthusiasm and assurance, showing interest in the audience and confidence in their reactions. Yeah, we're just looking for authentic self. And this is where many speakers get into trouble because they try to put on very terrible off-Broadway productions, and they're overly dramatic and theatrical and it's terrible. And so we're looking for natural mannerisms and authentic selves. And that's where manner comes in. Language, 20%. Is it appropriate? And correctness, looking at use of grammar. This is a grammarian's correct punctuation, and that's it. Actually, these are easy ones. Master the words being used. It's easy stuff. So, does anyone have any questions or concerns about judging criteria? The only thing I can tell you about judging criteria is each contest has a different judging criteria. So pick up your ballots and study each contest criteria. Yes, Mr. PQD.
Hi, Naomi. Thank you so much. I have a small question here. You talked about whenever there is a technical disconnect, we need to allow some time to the speaker to come back, and we should not read the speaker because of technical reasons. So my question is, how many times in a 5-minute or 7-minute speech, like international speech contest or humorous speech contest, there should be how many attempts that we should allow for the contestant to get disconnected and come back? And in every attempt, how many minutes shall we wait for the speaker to come back? Is it 30 seconds, 1 minute, or more than a minute?
So I don't know that there's an actual official time to wait.
Okay.
For example, the situations we've had is an actual weather event was going on in the contestants' area. So they lost power. So they were able to reconnect on their cell phone. So we encourage everybody to have a backup plan.
Correct.
So it really, now if the cell phone didn't work, that contestant was, that's it. But if their backup plan doesn't work, I mean, there's nothing we can do.
Exactly.
You can't wait for them to like drive to the library and, try to connect. We don't have time for that. So you've got to, use your judgment as the chief judge on how much time you're gonna wait. What we've done too is put that contestant to the back of the line, let the rest of the contestants go, give them that time, to come up with another plan. And then they reconnect. I mean, we've had contestants go to the neighbor's house, You give them as much grace as you can, but you can't do it forever. So.
Okay. Why I asked this question, I somewhere heard that Toastmaster International has defined some, timeline around this technical part as well. So I might check the rule books again. I think there are 2 attempts allowed, Naomi, to, have technical disconnects for a contestant. If a contestant is getting 3rd time disconnected, we shall disqualify the contestant from the contest. This is what I know, but I'm not really sure if it is applicable in 2023, 24 as well. So I will check in parallel. If you can also check and let me know if you find some details around it, that will be good.
And it also might be at the discretion of the chief judge as well.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Claudie.
Hello.
Hello.
I have one quick question regarding the screen when the speaker is speaking. It seems like you mentioned that the judge can gauge the audience reaction to the speaker as they speak virtually, but I think people are encouraged to turn off the screen the video when someone is speaking. Is that the case? I mean, I think that should be on so you can see the reaction to the speaker. But I was always baffled why they were requested to leave their camera off when the speaker was speaking, because there's no way to tell whether they're even listening. Maybe they just go to the restroom for the whole time. So is it required not to leave the video on, the audience? Are they encouraged to leave the video on?
Sorry, I'm not sure that I did not intend to say that in a virtual world, you're able to see anybody else, because you're not going to be able to see anybody else. The contestant is not going to be able to gauge, you as a judge are not going to be able to gauge anybody else in the virtual world. It's only in person. For example, District 18 has a contest in person. So
Okay.
in person, you will be able to look around the room and judge the audience. Only in person will you be able to do that. In the virtual world, cameras will be off.
Okay, I mean, I think that's always one disagreement I had with the last contests, because I mean, right now I can see people shaking their heads when you say something very nice. I mean, I'm not a Toastmaster, a leader at the moment, but I think it's good. At least whatever you can see. I mean, I can see 12 people here on that one screen. As a judge, I think that tells me whether I'm like focused on the speaker, whether I'm shaking my head, maybe I'm laughing if it's a humorous speech. But anyway, I thought you mentioned for virtual world as well. So thank you.
I wish. And I think it's a bandwidth issue. It is for the clarity, especially for contests. We have to record those contests, and the contestant needs to have, no pixels, no problems, right?
No
So,
distraction.
no technical problems. So unfortunately, can't have, other faces and, somebody's audio pops in, those would be reasons to disqualify that contestants from going forward to the next level.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, sorry. But I agree with you. I wish I had, if I were a contestant, I would wish I would have the feedback that seeing other people's faces gives you. But
that's why I'm a judge now, not a contestant. Thank you so much.
Craig?
Yeah. So how do you consider a hybrid contest? If you, based on what you just said, in terms of if you're in person, you can judge the audience's reaction. So if it's a hybrid contest, are you being unfair to the virtual contestant because you're not seeing it? So in that case, would you have to, the point being, if you can only use your own reaction for a hybrid for the virtual contestant, should you only use your reaction, or do you expand? You understand the question?
No. You mean as
the judge, you said in person you can judge the audience's reaction, right? Because in person you can see the audience is moving. But if you have two contestants who are in person and one who is on the screen, then are you giving undue advantage to the person? If you include that, are you giving undue advantage to the person in person, because, or vice versa, if it was bad reaction?
So I had this as a due out to Toastmasters International, but I think we need to have a combination of virtual and in-person judges. And I tell you why. The World Championship of Public Speaking in the Bahamas, I was in the audience. Some of those contestants made the audience do things, stand up, hug people, touch people, YMCA, you know, they made us do things, right? If I were at home and I were a judge at home, I'm not touching my neighbor. I'm not getting up. I'm not doing any of it. So I'm having a different experience than the people in the room. And I would tell you, I would have bet $10 that the winners was going to be somebody who made us do something in the room, because we were having a good old time in the room. So, but having virtual judges, they were having a different experience. So I think we're gonna have to have a combination of both to be fair. If it's a hybrid contest, you need to have hybrid judging.
That's a great point. It's not quite what I was asking. My point was, if a contestant is virtual and a contestant is in person, you said that if you're judging and you're in person, you can gauge the audience reaction.
Yes.
But if you're a judge, you're in person, and you're getting you're a hybrid contest, you won't, and it's a hybrid contestant, they don't see that same feedback maybe in the same way. So are you being unfair by counting the audience reaction in your judging? I'm talking.
I don't think so. I don't think so. So if you are a hybrid judge, you are not going to see the audience. You only have yourself. You are the audience member. So you are judging with how did this contestant make you feel?
Mhm.
You are the audience member. So you are judging on your reactions. Did you laugh? Humor speech contest. Did you laugh? Did you think it was funny? That's all you have to go off of.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, last 2-3 years, we've been judging virtually and we don't get to see the audience. So we've been judging based on our own reactions. Teresa, did you want to weigh in?
I was only going to state that I was trying to define what type of contest, because if it was an international speech contest and we send contestants there, their district has paid for them to be physically there. However, if they cannot make that, they need to let the district that's sending them, they cannot make it, and send someone else. Because the international speech contest, say for instance this year, it was all contestants there that had to be there presently. We had a physical site. When we had the pandemic, of course, we were mandated by the Constitution that everybody would be judged by the particular judge that they had assigned, and everything was online. So with that, I think it was a good question, because it does raise a question. A bigger question is, will we be that flexible in an international speech contest? Because a club contest, going right on up the level, that's totally different. With the international speech contest, unless we had another pandemic, everybody have to be governed by the same governance. And that means everything online, or those contestants have to be in person. Otherwise, send another contestant that can afford the opportunity to be presented by their district, and a district's paying the expense. Am I correct, Naomi? Yes.
Teresa, it's funny you would to say that, because in the Bahamas, the one virtual contestants in the finals, I knew her. She was from my club in Germany, Rammstein.
Oh my God.
And I tell you, had I still been over there, we would have passed the hat and made her come to the Bahamas.
Absolutely.
because she was at a disadvantage. She was at a disadvantage. She should have been there. If she was in any district that I knew of, we would have passed the hat. Collect some money and brought her there.
And that was a disadvantage. Sometimes the district doesn't afford the opportunity for this to happen. And very rarely, because everybody usually gets to that international speech contest. Would you think so? Contestants. That's money invested.
Yep. So, yeah, no. Look, if somebody from District 18, if we do our jobs, ladies and gentlemen, and we get a contestant, let us pass the hat and make sure our contestant is in the room where it happens. Because, listen, this is a big deal.
It really is.
So, are there any other questions about the ballot? All right, good. All right, well, I think we're kind of on time. Because now we're going to talk about the electronic ballot that Oscar who sent me his slides. So graciously put together and you guys have used this electronic system in the past. And so you guys know how it works. Sorry. As you can imagine, I have 600 screens up. Share screen. Now I can do it. Can I get a thumbs up if you guys could see Oscar's presentation? Awesome. Okay, here it goes. There we go. So this is for your District 18 electronic ballot tool for virtual contests. This is how you guys are going to submit your winners. This is how the timers are going to submit their timers report. And this is how the ballot counters are going to submit their ballot counters. All the judges and the ballot counters are going to put in what the judges have decided. To the chief judge. So this is what it's going to look like. You will pick the contest. So this go round, we're doing international speech, humorous, and table topics. So depending on the contest, click on the contest. And this would be an example of the international speech ballot. Put your email address, your name, and remember, we are only picking voting judges. You're only picking the first, second, and third place. Right, so you put in, these are all the contestants. So you'll put in whoever you think is the first, second, or third place, and hit submit. If you are the timer, same thing. Pick the speech, the contest, put in your information, Hit submit. These are the results. So this takes the place of the winners form. And it will tell me first, second, or third place. These are the ballot counters. This is what it's going to look like. You'll tell me, how am I pointing? I'm sorry, I was using my finger instead of the virtual finger. These are all the judges. And it will tell me the judge, like Carl said, David is first place, Ranjan is second place, and Felicia is in the third place. And that's means no, I'm sorry. This is the ballot counter. So Felicia got 3 points. David got 1 point. Ranjan got 2 points. So that makes Felicia the first place, Ranjan second place, and David third place. That's what that means. Timers report. Everybody's within time. No disqualifications. Electronic ballot tool for virtual contests. It's easy. I can easily see any disqualifications. And that way, we don't have to worry about 4 or 5 pieces of papers. It's all done electronically, and we don't have to worry about different, email addresses and, having to do that ahead of time. It's a very simple system. And on the agenda has Oscar's email address. If you have any questions, concerns, you can always email him and he'll take you through the system. But it's very easy, user-friendly. I definitely highly recommend that you sit down with your area, if you're an area director, division director, sit down with Oscar and make sure that you're comfortable using the tool ahead of your contest. That makes that very easy.
Will Oscar be working with all the contests, at least the area and division?
Yes, he will.
Okay, he'll be with us. Okay.
Well, he may not be at every contest, but he will work ahead of time to make sure that you're there. It's available to you.
Question on this, for hybrid contests, will all judges still use these forms? And
Yes.
we're doing away with the paper form completely? At least,
as of right now, yes.
okay.
Yes.
So we'll have one method of submitting the ballots, not 2.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
That's only at club contest levels, correct? Because we're doing Zoom for the other ones. Area and division. Is that right?
I'm sorry. What is only at club?
His question about we're using hybrid, and will there be how that would work? That would only apply at the club level, because my understanding is area and division will be, I guess the district is also hybrid, but the area and the division will all be Zoom only.
So clubs can do it in any format they want to do it.
Right.
They don't have any restrictions. Toastmasters does not dictate how a club can do their contest. The area, division, and the districts are doing all their contests hybrid.
I thought the district, no hybrid, Zoom for the area and
The
division.
area and the division is online. The district is hybrid.
Correct.
But the same electronic ballot goes for everybody. Unless it's not available to you guys or you don't know how to use it, then you can backtrack on, fall back on the paper. Right, Naomi?
Yep. Yeah, anybody could use the paper at any time. You don't have to use the electronic, but the district, division, area, and the district have access to this tool. And we will be using this tool. But you can always...
Does that answer you, Sue?
Yes, I was just trying to clarify that I thought the question was is there a choice on which to do? But my understanding is area and division or Zoom only. So you have to really use this electronic. Otherwise, you got to have people text in their messages, their voting, and that's very complicated. We did that in the past, and this is so much easier. I don't know why anybody wouldn't use Oscar's system.
Yeah, this is the best system to use when you're doing it online, but you're not restricted to just that.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any other questions about anything else under the sun in the world of contests? Because next we're going to go into scripts and actually the mechanics and operations of contests. All right. In that case, if we could take a 5-minute bio break so that we could switch gears and adjust so that we can pull up all the scripts, and also everybody can stretch, clear your mind, and think of something else other than contests for about 5 minutes, and we will resume in 5 minutes.
It's 3:11 now, so we resume back at 3:16.
Naomi, I think there was a message there. Someone was asking whether they could have access to Oscar's tool. I think it was someone in the club. I think it's something in your chat there. Maybe they put it. I think I saw it come up in the chat.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Naomi's asking. Yes.
Yeah. I think someone was asking the question.
Yes. And
it would really be beneficial to all clubs if their president or someone gets that tool. It's very nice.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Clubs can get access to the tool. They just contact Oscar.
Yes.
That was a question.
Naomi, would you put Oscar email in the chat so they can contact him?
Sure can.
His email's also on the agenda.
Yeah. That was not an accident. Oh yeah, he's also the parliamentarian, so it is on the district website as well.
Five minutes, 5 minutes. Naomi, are you there?
Yep, I didn't even go anywhere.
Okay, 5 minutes is up.
Okay. All right. So now we can talk about the mechanics of actually, when you're the chief judge, the chief judge's briefing and the scripts that you'll be using for your briefings. So as I said, when you are the, let's try this. So this whole exercise is to teach you how to fish. So I'm on the District 18 website, and this is where all your resources for everything speech contests are housed. We have updated with the 2023-24 rule book, and that's where all your information about speech contests are in the rule book. What it doesn't give you are the scripts. So you'll find that in speech contest resources. I do not believe in reinventing the wheel, and what you guys had from last year is fantastic. We have updated 99% of it, but you will see some of them that still say 2022 to 2023. We'll get there eventually. I highly recommend going through all the videos in your ample free time. But where we're trying to get to is these briefings. You have to brief when you have to brief your ballot counter. You have to brief your. This is the briefing we're going to go through. The sergeant at arms, the tie-breaking judge, and the timers. All these are scripts. You just go through them line by line, item by item. So we're going to go through the judge's brief. Never mind that. All right, so this is the actual judge's brief. And you're just going to go through it item by item and make sure that everybody's clear. Many people don't understand that sometimes you cannot be a judge. The most important thing you need to know is who are the contestants. You cannot sign the certificate of eligibility if you don't know who the contestants are, because you're signing to say that there's no conflicts of interest. If you are judging at the district level, a contestant cannot be in your club. So you need to know who the contestants are, depending on what level you're judging at. So it's important to read the certificate of eligibility before you sign it. Remember, one of the core values of Toastmasters International, the very first one is integrity. And even though there's no Toastmaster police, we expect you to act with integrity when you are being a judge. Chief judge. The chief judge will supply the judge's guide and ballot for each contest. But because we're in a virtual world and 99% of our contests, you will provide your own ballots. The chief judge will explain alternate means of communication. Remember, we discussed having a backup plan. So, for example, I have my cell phone and my iPad right here, just in case something happens. And I'm ready to switch gears in case my laptop decides it doesn't want to play anymore. It's important, and I have the district director on speed dial in case nobody has speed dial anymore. But, you know, I could text her to say, oh, something happened. If you're the chief judge, you need to have all your voting judges and the contest chair ready to in communication immediately to let them know what's going on during the contest. It's important that you're constantly communicating, because stuff is always happening. So make sure you have your backup plans and a backup to the backup. You know, it says, yes, have alternate electronic means. We're always sharing email addresses. A lot of problems happen. Remember, a lot of clubs use their work email address. And I don't know, I'm a member in District 27, where a lot of our clubs are government clubs. And we're probably going to have another government shutdown. So it's important that we have an alternate email addresses, especially as we go into contest season, so that we're able to communicate with our members. How you rename yourself on Zoom. Rename yourself as judge with a number. You remember you're supposed to be anonymous. So cameras off, and your name or any identifying, your photo has to come off. If you're a regular judge, I, as the chief judge, don't have to I don't have to be anonymous. But if you're the chief judge, you don't have to be anonymous. But the voting judges, you do have to be anonymous. And make sure that when you assign the numbers, that you stick with the same numbers. Ahead of the contest, assign the numbers. The day of the contest, stick to the same number. Don't do the, shuffle around, because then people don't know who's who. Okay, speaking order, you'll get that ahead of time. All right, so we talked about the ballot, explanation of the ballot, when the contest begins. You get the speaking order. Ideally, you're getting that ahead during the contestants briefing. You get the speaking order. You have a copy of the program. So we would have, proper spelling of the names is important. And one thing that's an issue is if a contestant doesn't show up for the briefing or is late for the contestant's briefing. As long as they are in the contest when it says let the contest begin and the first contestant is announced, contestant number 1, blah, 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 and they enter the room, they can compete. That's completely fine. So we talked about the judge not judging technology. Then we talked about after the last contestant, oh my goodness. If you have as much time as you can to mark your ballot, right? To pick your first, second, third place person. Hopefully no one says you have 2 minutes to do so. I think at this point, people have gotten that out of their minds, but even earlier this year, we're still hearing that in contests. So if you do hear it, ignore it, but please don't take forever. But, be cognizant that you have people waiting on you. But you be quick, but don't hurry. You know what I mean? We want you to make it's an important decision you're making, so don't rush, but don't dawdle. Sue, you had a question?
Yeah, going back to the contestant who was not there for the briefing, but shows up before the first contestant begins. How do you assign them a contestant number? Do you draw on their behalf and assume they will be there?
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what you do. Ideally, like if they can't make the briefing and they send somebody, that's the smart thing for them to do. Sometimes they don't, but because you can't always, people have other lives.
So
And
just to
if-
clarify that, if Joe is the one who won the area contest and Joe's not 100% sure he can make it, so Jack was second
Well,
place
I'm
and
sorry,
Jack comes in.
make what? Make what?
He
can't make
isn't
what?
sure he can make it on time to the division contest.
Make it to the contest or the
So assume he won the area
social.
contest, but he can't be at the briefing, but he's hoping to be before, let's say it's international, it's the last one. Okay, his second place person goes to the briefing and they draw on his behalf. Now, is that saying that if Joe gets there on time, Joe can compete, even though Jack was the one briefed as second place?
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
Joe doesn't get there, Jack competes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
That is a very smart way to do it.
Naomi, Teresa Hetzel. We had an embarrassing situation back here 2016 or 15, 16 or 17. And we got all the way up to the division level. And it was unfortunate because one of the clubs was not in good standing. So the contestant, when it actually started the contest, he won the first place. Then it went to the area, got all the way up to division. And because we knew, well, one of the division directors knew that that club was not in good standing because of the membership, and it had been suspended from the district to the division level. And the person competed in the division level, won the trophy. Then everybody scrambled to get Tony Whitney and everybody else here. Look, there's a problem here because the club has not been in good standing. They only have 6 members. That contestant went all the way up to the division level, received a trophy. Then a discretion was, he should have known. He knew his club was not in good standing. That was not the responsibility. So we went back and forth, and I'm bringing this up because it's so important that when we go from the club level to the area level, make sure each one of those club contestants, their club is in good standing. Because the person who won the district level, there was no way legally we could take that trophy back from him because he had gotten so far. But it was really a learning experience. It was an embarrassing situation. So the district got involved and stated to the winner, the man, that look, you knew your club was suspended. It's not your responsibility. So they had a meeting and consulted with everyone, and he kept the trophy. But it's a good experience to always, every level you go to, make sure that each one of the contestants are in good standing as well as their club, because that was a hiccup. And that was one highlight that I don't think anybody in District 18 that was around to experience it will forget it, because it was a very embarrassing situation for not only the leaders that come from other clubs to compete, because they couldn't honor that person for the first place. They had to give it to the second place winner. And that meant to get another trophy for that particular woman so that she could carry the throne to the district level. You got to remember to check your clubs and also the club status, club members and club status.
What if the club was in good standing when the contest began, and then by the time it got to the division or district, they were no longer, because there is a date in there.
That was the situation. It really was. That was the situation. But once those dues were not paid, they were no longer, he won it for a club level, couldn't win it. He went to the area and he went to the division. And it was ready to send him to the district, but they would not. They gave him the trophy. They asked him to submit it back, but they had to get another trophy for the second place winner. He didn't have to do that legally. So it's embarrassing, but we got to be very careful. Every level, we need to check the contestants as well as whether the club is in good standing.
Yes. So at the start of that contest, the contestant has signed their eligibility. And the eligibility is that contestant in a club that is in good standing.
That's correct. So you know what happened? He wasn't truthful. Toastmasters International. Get District 18 wasn't going to go through the bachelor to bring it up to Toastmasters International. So they didn't dismiss it. They asked the person to return the trophy. And from my knowledge, if the first person winner, they got a new trophy for the first place winner. Now, whether the person did, I think he did, but they got another trophy for the first place winner.
But it may not have been a dishonest thing. He may not have known the club had gone out of good standing, to be honest.
If you're competing all the way up the line, yes, he did. You're a member of that same club.
But
Yes.
Sue, where's the area director?
That's what the concern was. I said nobody was checking behind each other. That was the reason why it was so. I enforced the district to do what they need to do, the right thing to do, because we've gone all the way up to the district level. And it was the club level who was in good standing. And when it got to the area, we don't assume our partners have checked everything. We got to be accountable for each other.
No, I agree. I mean, I had a contestant last year that had won at their contest level and got to the area or the division, I don't remember, and they didn't have 2 levels completed in pathways. They were never eligible to compete. And I broke her heart. She was practicing and she just wasn't eligible.
Yeah, and it's not, we as leaders got to remind members, because all members have never been leaders that sometimes compete in these contests. Yeah. And it's our fiduciary obligation from each level to look after each other. So the area, we looking back here and say, let me make sure I send everybody that's in good standing to the division so that embarrassment wouldn't happen. And we're representing each other.
Yep. Thank you, Teresa. Oh my gosh, it hurts my heart too.
It happened. It really happened. And I got Tony Witten and Elizabeth Carter, and she didn't play. She said, "Oh, give that trophy back." And I mean, he wasn't nasty. He did because he went along with the ride. He knew because I talked with him. I actually saw him, and I said, "Your club is not in good standing." And at that time, I was a division director. I think I was, and the most important thing is this: you bring it to the chief judge's attention, then everything could stop. But I was just an audience person. But I remember them coming to me about helping them to restore the club. I said, "How he get all the way up here?" Brilliant speaker though, and he returned it. But he returned it back, but it was embarrassing.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Naomi, continue, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the only thing I would change here is you guys keep your ballots and you don't get to share it with anybody else. The decisions you make is yours and yours only. You don't get to share with anybody else. And in the vein of integrity, you're not required to justify your actions. All decisions are final. Once the chief judge submits the winners, the first, second, third place winners, and they are announced, that's it. Forever hold your peace, so to speak. So please don't discuss your deliberations outside of the judge's deliberation room. And we can talk about protests, because the good thing about the virtual world is once you come into the contest is over, the contestants have spoken, and we come into the judge's chamber. That's the opportunity for you to talk about protests. And we can talk about the fact that perhaps one of the voting judges, and only a voting judge, says, "Wow, that was the entire I Had a Dream speech," or another speech that you heard online or on the internet. It is in the judge's chamber that we can pull it up And we could say, oh my goodness, that was the entire TEDx talk of someone. And that's when only a judge can bring that up. We can talk about it. Then the chief judge will bring in the contestant and allow them to plead their case. And we'll say, well, this part, and I attribute it, and they justify it, or they didn't say a word about where they got the speech from, and they didn't attribute it, because only 25% could be from somewhere else. The rest has to be original. So in the judges' chambers where that deliberation, and we address protests. And the chief judge makes the decision to disqualify the contestant. The contest chair is the other person that can also bring up a protest on originality. There's another disqualification, and that is referencing somebody else's speech. If a contestant references any other contestant's speech, that is also grounds for disqualification. So remember, only the contest chair and the judges can have grounds to protest. You can't get a text from your buddy in the audience, which has happened. Thank God for technology, right? Which has happened.
Yeah.
Please use integrity and disregard the input of your friends and family that are in the audience. And it has to come from a judge or the contest chair. And also, as a voting judge, you cannot consider timing, but only the chief judge has to consider timing. And don't want you even thinking about it. Try to ignore it. Do not pin the timer as a voting judge. Even as a chief judge, I'm not to pin the timer. The timers are the only ones responsible for taking care of time. So if you pull down all these scripts, you can go through them with your respective teams and do so with each group, timer, ballot counter, voting judges. We talk about a tiebreaker, the tie-breaking judge. As the chief judge, only you should know who is the tie-breaking judge. Inform the tie-breaking judge to only speak to you. Tie-breaking judge does not come to the judge's briefing. So you don't have to worry about that. That's a conversation between you and him and her, or her, him or her, her or him. So that's it for, what are your questions about being a chief judge?
I have a quick question. You mentioned disqualification on the grounds of reference of a contestant referencing someone else's speech. Do you have an example? Is it simply saying that, for example, well, as Naomi said in her speech, something that's simple, or is it more like elaborate, like a whole passage of the other contestant's speech?
No, it's as simple as that. So remember, like in an international speech contest, you'll be able to hear and see each other's speech, right? You're not sequestered as in like evaluation or table topics. So you're not to reference any part of another contestant's speech. And I'm trying to bring that up to the rule book.
And is that just ground, or is it just an instant guaranteed disqualification, or do I have a discretion to say whether or not it was? Is this, or is it automatic? If he was made a reference was made, I have to disqualify him as a chief judge, or is it just a discretionary decision?
Oh, I didn't take it as something that required conversation. You either did it or you didn't do it.
Okay, so okay, perfect.
So it's on page 16 of the rule book, paragraph 7. Number C. Paragraph C. Before a contestant can be disqualified on the basis of originality or for referencing another contestant's speech, the contestants must be given an opportunity to respond to the voting judges. A majority of the voting judges must concur in the decision to disqualify. There you go.
I have two questions. Going back to this first question, if one of the contestants, let's say it's international speech, in their introduction will say, you know, fellow Toastmasters, other contestants, that's not any violation. It's only if they refer to their speech in the discussion. Is that correct? They can mention other contestants as part of the greeting. Because I've heard that before, and I just wanted to verify that's not a problem.
No, I don't yet.
I mean, they're not talking about what they said. They're just saying fellow contestants.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just referring to the fellow contestants is fine.
My other question is regarding the conflicts that you started out with. Last year, I had a division level contest, and the day of the contest, somebody got back and said, I can't judge today because there's a conflict. And the conflict was because someone someone was competing who was also in a club that this guy was a member of. So I did not circulate around who the contestants were at that point, because we were really just getting them at that point. I mean, you know, area contest ended one week and our contest was the next week. So what are the I'm sorry, what?
What level contest was it?
This was a division contest, and the last area contest was about a week before. And I think what happened is, maybe it was longer before, but what happened is one of the areas substituted one of the competitors. So someone had won and been listed, and then that person couldn't make it and the list changed. So what happened is the day of the contest, one of the judges came back and said, I can't be a judge because I have a conflict, because this person is also a member of a club that I'm a member of. So I wondered if you can just talk a little bit about the conflicts.
Yeah, so why I asked what level contest is because you have to go back to the rule book, as I am doing so right now, because I'll be honest, I don't keep it straight in my head all the time, because I go back to the rule book and I go back and I see, okay, to be a judge at an area, division, or district contest, you know, what's the criteria, right?
Mhm.
And is it okay that I'm in the club? If it's okay, then you're fine. If I can't be in the club, then, you know, you can't be in the club. So I cannot be a judge in that contest. You know, so I go back to the rule book on page 7. It's very long. It's like, it starts on page 6, goes on to page 7, and ends on page 8. So you go back to the rule book and figure out what it says for each level of contest. I have shown up to a contest. You know, somebody calls me and says, "Hey, Naomi, can you be a judge in this contest? I need somebody." And I pop in with the contestants. Oh, I'm in a club with this person. I'm in a club with one of the contestants, and it's not at a level that's okay. So what do? I call somebody else and say, "Hey, are you in a club with any of these people? Hey, can you come judge this contest for me?" And I replace myself because it's not, you know.
Okay.
So you got to replace that person. And for me, it's not fair that, you know, I'm helping the, you know, division director out, and then I'm not eligible to be a judge. So I have to replace myself. Call somebody up and say, "Hey," but you know, it is quid pro quo, because one day there'll come a time when somebody will ask me to, in the last minute, to come judge a contest for them. No problem. We'll pay it back. No problem.
You know, I mean, just a quick point. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to be that, and it may not affect judges, so that's why you didn't say it, but contestants can also raise a protest, correct?
Yes. Yes. You are absolutely right. Contestants can. And you're right. I was kind of focused on us judges. I think it said it on the slide. The contest, no, I didn't. Oh yeah. Only judges and contestants can make a protest. Yep. Eligibility, originality, and reference.
I have a quick question regarding disqualification on originality. I've never seen it done. I've been part of many different contests as a contestant and participant, just watching. Have any of you been part of a contest when someone is disqualified? At least a discussion was made where the contestant had to defend himself or herself after a disqualification discussion was raised.
I can answer that for a second. I was in a different districts contest, and maybe it was this one. I don't know. It was last year. The person spoke eloquently, and it was a tall tale. No, it was a different district. It was a tall tales contest, and they clearly were repeating what had been said, and there was a huge discussion. I mean, it was, I think the protest discussion went on for like 20 minutes, and I was the chief judge. So I had to take vote. We brought the contestant in, had them debate, talk about it, and all the judges, we did a panel of questions on the judges. It can be it can be very distracting because what the question was, since it was tall tales and they were hyperbolizing, their speech was they were Superwoman, and they proceeded to quote a specific woman's, Marilyn Monroe's history. I'm recalling it as I speak, Marilyn Monroe's biography, and they just took it step by step. But she started by saying she was this alternate superhero, but then the whole thing was the biography of Marilyn Monroe. So it was, some people were saying, well, it was hyperbole, it wasn't really quoting. The other people were saying you were taking step by step by step. The ultimate decision there was to disqualify. And another time, somebody didn't know that the speech had been paraphrased. A audience member brought it up haphazardly that it was, but no disqualification happened because no judge or contestant said it. But they did the same speech at the next one, and I think people had heard it, and I think they got disqualified at the next level. So it's one of those. It's very brutal, in my opinion.
And for the first example, the discussion, was it just between the contestants and the judges, but not with the audience being involved? That was just exclusively.
We were in a Zoom breakout room, and we basically, I had never done it before, didn't know how to do it, and so I ran it as a panel question with the contestant. I ran it with a panel situation with the contestant coming in, and each judge had the opportunity to ask a question or two, and then the contestant got to give a final closing argument. Then the contestant left out, and we did a anonymous vote.
Okay, and I'm only asking because I'm going to be a chief judge for our club. So when the contest was when the protest was made, you told the audience there was a potential disqualification. You'll be back to talk about it, or did you say what?
The contest chair put us into recess. It was clear that something was going on because the voting was delayed. The contest chair put us in recess, and actually there was a little bit, like I said, I'd never done it before, and there was some gaffes on my part because I did mention the protest in the open area, but it was minor, and we moved on. So the contest chair put him in recess because the contest chair is also aware of the protest, put him in recess, and then that process happened.
Perfect. Thank you.
So in the case of the protests, you don't have to announce the details of it. The contest chair can do table topics, continue on interviewing the contestants, continue on. It's the same procedures you would have, while you're waiting for the results, right? So that your contest chair should have some activity planned while you're waiting for the chief judge to come back with the results. But you don't announce, oh, we've got a protest.
Right.
So
you do it as discreetly as physically possible.
Right, as much as possible. But when you do have to disqualify somebody, at the end, when you have to announce the winners, you just like you say there was a disqualification for time, you say there was a disqualification for whichever one of these three things: originality, eligibility, originality, or reference. So, and that's it. That's it. And then, of course, you'll hear the crowd go. In person, you'll hear the crowd. You're not going to hear the crowd virtually, but in person, you'll hear the crowd mumble and grumble and be like, "Ooh, who was it? Oh, what was it about?
What is it? Must be a protest. Well, what is it?"
Drama. But and And in future judges training, it becomes a teachable moment.
All right, I have another question. Okay. And I know this was addressed in some stuff last year, but I don't remember the outcome. The use of artificial intelligence in writing a speech. Are you have any comments on that? What if we believe that this person did not compose the speech?
How do you know that they used?
How would you know?
I know when I review papers, I can kind of tell when the person, it's not what they would write and that they're not even answering the questions. I'm not sure how you tell here, other than the fact that there is a speech writing tool that you can use with artificial intelligence. I don't know how you can tell, and maybe that's just something we can't decide on, or we can't even ask about.
Yeah, I don't know how you would know that ChatGPT wrote the speech.
So I was just asking it because I'm curious, not because of anything that ever happened.
Yeah, I just don't know how you would know.
Is there a
And-
representation that they give us that says it's their own work? Is that part of the contestants form where they state that they completely made it up?
That's part of their certification that it is their original work. That's the name of the form, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it's on the form that they sign before they
Originality.
give the speech.
Yeah, it's called a certificate of originality, something like that, right?
yep. And I think with I guess quick comment, it's not easy. Maybe at one point Toastmasters will have it, but at this time, I know some universities have their own AI thing to, at least for the written word, but for speeches, I don't think anybody has that capability, because it's so hard to track unless you have something judging the person as they speak, which is now, I don't think we have, Toastmasters is rich enough to have that technology.
It was just a question.
Yeah, but that's a good one. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I think we're going to see more and more of it. That's all.
I think so. I think
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Even as Toastmasters, we have access to Udly, but Udly won't write a speech for you. It'll just help you
Analyze.
better it, change some of your verbiage and let you know if you're making eye contact.
Yeah, it's a certificate of speaker's certification of eligibility and originality. So
Right.
they're certifying that their work is original,
That's
but
right.
it's originally taken from ChatGPT.
Yeah, they did it themselves. Yeah.
But I think that one of the things we always have to remember is that one of our principles, our values, rather, is integrity. And so we want to promote that. I mean, you don't want to assume that people are going to be personally corrupt and do something false. But I think when they sign the document, we have to go with it unless it changes. And when I was listening to Mr. Del Fosse's statement, we had one back in 2011, and a young man had presented. He did the whole speech. It was fantastic. And when at the end of the contest, then we had a conference, because someone came and said that was not his work, that was someone else's work. And they said he got it from this, and it was by someone else. What he did was he had more than 25%. He had at least 85% of the speech. And so we had a big discussion about it. It was all private, and people were being entertained, the audience, with the Toastmaster of the day. And we had our discussion, and then we brought the person in. We had a discussion with them, and they said, yes, I did do that. And so we told them why, And then we decided that he would be disqualified, and it just never, nobody never knew that we had a discussion about that, whatever, and didn't know who it was. So, and I think that's very important to protect the individual who made the error, whether it was consciously or not. You know,
Yeah,
not knowing,
the
they were
line,
very young, very new.
the
But I
line
know a lot
says,
of people are known to use Dr. Martin Luther King's speech. But if they say it's come from Dr. Martin Luther King and go on and give the experience and examples of their own experience, that's okay. But if they preamble that just as though it's more than half of Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, and it has happened, they're disqualified. Because they can use some of the speech presenting a theory that they personally believe in or their own experiences as during the Dr. Martin Luther King era. That'll be fine. But if they do not, we know what happens, right, Bobby? And it is because we got great speakers in Toastmasters, and sometimes for them to present a theory, a lot of times they give a little bit too much information without giving the author of the originality of part of that speech.
so the line in here on the speaker's certification of eligibility and originality states, in compliance with current speech contest rules, I certify that the content of my speech is or will be substantially original. And right below it is their signature. So I would hope that everyone who participates in a speech contest adheres to the core values, number one being integrity. So, ladies and gentlemen, my contact information, I'll put in the chat in a minute, but I did put in the chat the evaluation for today's training. Please be generous and put as much information as you can in there so that we can make the next round or session of this training better. And let us know what we can do to improve this training and how did it go today. But we do need to wrap up because it is past our time. It's been my pleasure to facilitate today's training. Great discussion. And I look forward to this round of contests and being your chief judge in the fall, in the spring.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Naomi. Good job.
Thanks, Naomi. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Naomi. Thanks, everyone. Let's have a great contest this year. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.